Hello my lovely friends, my name is Ellen and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to paint some bees on some thistle. I have a demo, an old one, so I figured I'd upgrade it. People had asked me about it because I had not been speaking on that one, but now I'm speaking. So I teach you how to draw this and paint this, but if you're a Patreon member you can download the traceable, and if you're not a Patreon member just click the link in my description box in my about page. It's a place people go and support my channel, which I appreciate, and you can get traceables to my YouTube channel. There's exclusive tutorials there on Thursdays, and if you're a super Patreon you get a free download from me once a month that you can use for your personal use. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and please don't forget to hit the bell notification button to know my tutorials are up. So let's get started. Alright, so before we get started, let me teach you how to draw the bee and the thistle. If you're a Patreon member, you can just download the sketch traceable that I have here, which has like a lot more detail than I'll teach you how to draw. But basically painting it is kind of like where it changes anyway, because we're going to be, when you're painting it, you can have a sketch all you want. When you're painting it, it's going to come out completely different. So for the thistle, it's basically thinking, again, we always think in shapes, right? So we're going to have, let me draw this in a marker, maybe easier. It's a kind of like a round shape, but then you're kind of cutting it off here. So you do a circle and then cut it off here, right? And then you're curving the stem, just like that. And the little lines you're going to paint in the thistle are going to be kind of curved this way, crisscrossing this way. You'll have some little spikes coming out of it. And then the flower part of it's just these little spiky kind of flowers like this. And this is true for both of them. And obviously the other one is going to be bigger on this side. I'm actually not going to show the whole painting of both of them. I think it gets monotonous of me teaching you that. Same thing. Just make a bigger one. And then for the bee, again, you're going to think in shapes, maybe like or segments, right? So he's got his head. It's an oval shape, right? And then think of a little triangle next to him, right? And then we're going to have another segment and another segment and a little bumpy butt. A little bumpy butt. And from the bumpy butt, you're going to draw little legs. Little legs. Here it's got the oval eye. You're going to color most of it in and have like a little spike coming from it. And then you have your boom, boom. That's his little antennae. And then from this segment right here, halfway down, you're gonna curve a line out here, and then curve one down here for the wing, and then curve in, and you have a wing. And you can draw the little lines in here like that. So it's curve, curve, connect, connect, like a scallop like that. And then from each little segment, we're gonna have little spikes. We're gonna paint out little spikes. This would be yellow. This would be half yellow and half black. Mostly black here. And black here, but we're gonna be black on black, basically, black and gray. And that's the bee. For the other guy, I'm not really gonna, same thing. You're doing the segments. I kind of like push that one way over here, but put the flower here. You're just thinking segments, right? Again with the little butt hanging down here. And then for the wings for this one, you have two of those. One wing here, and then another one here. Again with the eye, spike, spike. Fuzzy fuzzies, segments, and the little legs. I know that's a little messy, but the same thing. You're just kind of bending him, maybe like making him a little straighter. So it's the segment, right? Just think in segments, and the little tail. And I kind of do a V here for the half yellow, but then the wing is going to come here. Another wing from here outward. If that makes any sense. It's the best way I could describe it to show you. So we're doing the pencil, a segment, maybe like an oblong shape. That works better. So it's an oval this way, an oval this way, with a little triangle butt, right? And then you're going to kind of like make the segments. And then I do like a half segment on these two. And then you put the wing from the middle of this one, curve out, out, connect. And then here it's out of the body. That's on the other side. and then you're drawing the legs, and then the eye, and then the antennae. And that's your bee! And the thistle part is really easy. So, like I said, if you're a Patreon member, you just download that. If you're not a Patreon member, you might want to go over there and check that out. It's a place where people can support my channel, which is great. I appreciate it. Because it's a lot of work to do this. I'm not going to lie, you know, coming up with ideas and, you know, getting the supplies and the paint. And so Patreon is a place to help support all that. You know, none of that stuff, even though people ask for specific videos, I always crack up. I'm like, I don't have time for all that. I can only do certain things, and I want to do certain things. So I try and keep it, you know, something you would like. And every week on Thursday, I do exclusive tutorial on Patreon with traceables. This past week was a really long one. I did the still life rose one. This was like over an hour. So, you know, I go over all this. So if you become a Patreon member, I think it's very worthwhile. You're getting 4 exclusive videos a month, plus all the traceables that go with YouTube that I do. Not from all the past videos, because I didn't start Patreon until I think a year in of doing YouTube. So people kept on asking me about it, so I figured, okay, I have nothing else to do. Okay, just joking. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Anyway, so let's get started on the paint. So what would you paint first? Obviously, the bee is going to be darker than the purple. You could paint the thistles like blue and purple, bluish green and purple. So I would probably paint the purple flower part first and then hit the bee, because, you know, vice versa, you know, it's not going to be as easy to go around the color with the thing. So I'm going to be working with mostly my Princeton 8 and 4. I don't even know if I'll use the 4, because I really think sometimes just the tip on the 8 is good enough. Long round Velvet Touch series. You know I love the Velvet Touch series brushes. I love the Velvet Touch series brushes of Princeton and the Neptune series. They're both in the description box. Everything's in the description box. People always ask, where is it? Hit those words, show more. Just click on them words. The box will drop down and all my stuff is there. Like magic. So I'm working on a 9x12 piece of Arches, 100% cotton, cold press paper. The cold press is fantastic in cotton for like absorbing a lot of wet on wet paper color. My paints are always in the description box. Yeah, I got some over here. I'm always using kind of the same paints. I'm going to start to like play around with some more of the colors, you know. But I'm trying to keep it in a simple little palette, so you can see the palette, you can see the paper, you can see everything. I have paper towel, I have water jars. I can lift the camera up and you'll see a tiny me version of me, and I'll constantly be kind of zoom in and out. It doesn't make sense. So I just kind of work with the similar colors and simple colors, because, you know, that way you're not spending a lot of money on watercolor. Like I show you, and actually I keep talking about this, all this time I was painting with olive green gouache, not the olive green watercolor. Now I have the two. Look how different they are, right? This olive green watercolor is not as pretty as the olive green gouache. So if you're going to get some other things, get the gouache, white gouache and olive green gouache. I love it. And use the gouache like watercolor. It's just prettier. And then you can use it like gouache. But the olive green is just this ugly color. I hate to say it. The gouache is prettier. All right, so let's just start with purple. And I don't have purple. I actually do have a purple. I think I bought one, but I'm going to make purple. So I have Prussian blue, and I have quinachradone magenta. It has so many uses with this magenta. Can make a nice pretty purple. Because I want the thistle should be like purple and like pinky purple, so I'm going to use both. So I'm going to put the blue over here where the magenta is. So I've got that kind of magenta purple kind of tone, and then I can mix the peacock with the magenta and even be a prettier purple. You want a bunch of variety. So you got the two going here. You see that? Simultaneously, like magic. And then for the thistle part, the stem part, you know, green, and I would mix it with some peacock blue. It's kind of like a turquoisey, greenish blue color, you know. All right, so I have my Princeton 8 long round. Gonna flush in some purple colors first. We have the bee sketched out here where we want it to go, and I'm just gonna throw in See, I'm just gonna go like this. Most of this bee is gonna be black, but here will be yellow. So knowing that this color is gonna be up here, I can play around with putting my purple down here and putting the bee kind of entwined on top of it. I'm getting really loose with this. Just see, I'm just taking a brush and flipping those wispy wisps of the thistle. You don't have to be perfect. And where it meets the actual body of the, I don't know, I guess the pod, whatever you want to call it, you can just get a little darker down there. Again, I'm going to do the same thing here. It's wet on dry. I'm putting in this pinkish purple color. Woohoo! Just wisping. See that? Some dry brush marks, some not dry brush marks. Get funky with it. Later we could splatter some of the paint. Just like that. I'm going to get real loose with this. I'm not going to show you both bees to paint because I just feel like that's, again, I'm wasting precious time. You don't need to have me show you everything. You know how to draw it. You're just going to paint one, and you can just go ahead and do the other one. That's how we're going to roll today. But since I had the paint on my brush, I might as well fill out this other floor. Now see how I have a combination? This one's kind of got just a lot of water, so there's hardly any dry brush. This one has more dry brush. I like this better. And what do I mean by dry brush? It's not as much water, so you get this, like, because this paper has a tooth to it, you see how you're missing some spots. It looks like paint hasn't hit it, and I love that. That's the dry brush look. Getting even lighter, putting paint out here too. And why is that like gold for me? Because it's so pretty. It adds like this other element to it. Some people don't like it. Some people want to paint real intense botanicals. You might want to paint on a flatter paper, like a hot press paper. It's going to absorb different. I have a tutorial on, if you just hit the videos and hit oldest first, and you can scroll through my whole entire video set of throughout like a year and a half. And there's a video there, you'll see purple flowers, of the difference between hot press and cold press paper. It's just a different type of paper. A lot of people who do intense, realistic, botanical type of paintings and watercolor will use a hot press paper, not a cold press. Again, so I'm just going to do that and let that dry a bit. We can take this darker purple now, but it's going to bleed, see? Not going to be fun. It's not going to achieve what we want it to achieve. So we're going to move on to the thistle part. I'm going to grab some of this peacock blue, mixing it in with the green, olive green. It's like a bluish, pretty pale green. So we're going to, again, wet on dry and play around. There's a little purple tinge to it too. You can do some nice little purple colors too. So play around with this. So I've got this like kind of sagey purple, turquoisey kind of bluish green, and I might mix in more green actually. See how it's all kind of like blending back and forth to each other? That's the money, I call it, because then you've got this multitude of colors. So you could flush in one color if you want, or many colors. So you get wet on wet. I grab some more water. I'm just kind of pushing the paint around with my brush, leaving some white spots. Just pretty color. Just light. Put some green in there. Working very fast. I'll throw some green in there. Some more blue. And then I'm going to do these little spikes kind of outward. The thistle has spikes on top and kind of on the bottom of that little pod. I kind of drew some of them in, but painting it is more, there's a better way. It's a better visual to show you. And they could be really pale and not pale. See, just making these really simple spikes. Just pushing the brush out. Like that. Doop, doop, doop. Just like that. Having fun. Pushing paint around. That's what I call it. Pushing paint around. Yeah, like a bully. You're pushing it around. And we're going to continue some of this color down into the stem. just like that. Voila. Really loose. At this point you could, like, it's still wet, but you could still go in and throw in some bluish purple colors. You know, I might put a little dabs of it here, blending in here, just kind of a little bit. Same thing here, just gonna dab some blue, purple, and then on the bottom down here. Look at that, right? You get the little shadow. And some blue. This is called fun, people. Magic happens when you least expect it. I want you to guys stop to be stressed out. The whole point of painting is not to be stressed out. You know, it will come in time when you get better and better. I just watched this video on TikTok of a boy. He was like a little skinny, scrawny thing. And they used to make fun of him. He was bullied as a kid, and his dream was to be a soldier. And he showed how he transformed himself. And he, like my son's doing with his body, he's getting bigger and bigger and bulkier and working out. He did the same thing and became a soldier. So it wasn't overnight. He had to work at it. The same thing with painting. So everyone gets so frustrated, like, oh, I'm frustrated. Stop it. Stop it. Just keep doing it. You didn't learn how to ride a bike in 5 minutes. Well, maybe some people did. Olympic athletes train for years. See, now I'm doing this, just washing in this little leaf here. Just a simple, like, wiggly. Boop, boop, boop. So when you come to think of that in the same terms of painting, there doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take time. You're going to work on playing with watercolor, tapping in paint, taking this brush and using it like I'm holding like this, using it like a pencil. Just kind of wing, wing, whispering color. So I'm getting some darker blue, green. You will get used to it. Now this made it kind of like a cauliflower in here. I don't like that because the paint was wet and it was wet in here. So I'm going to take my brush, clean it off, grab some water, and just kind of wisp it up. But it will get covered with more paint on top. This is drier, so now I can go back in with the purples that I have and kind of go back in and wisp. Can even get some darker pinker purple. More, this is like a drier paint, less water, so it's not bleeding as much, you know. And I'm just making these wisps. So I'm just taking the pinky purple and other purples and blue purples and wisping upward like this. Woohoo! And then some downward, because, you know, they feel neglected. You gotta get down there. Like a dancing. Get down. Okay, let's work on the bees. We'll come back to that. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit to the bee. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Okay. So we know this part I want to keep yellow. I'm doing yellows, like grays and like blue blacks, okay? So we can work on the yellow first because it's the most important one to work on first. I have a cadmium yellow deep here. I'm going to put a little magenta over here on the side, make a little like yellow orange, just a little bit darker than that. You want to have two colors kind of next to each other. And we're going to flush in the yellow. Right here in this section here. It's a little bright, but it will do. And this is what I think I'm going to number 4. I'm going to use this brush the whole time because it's got this great tip and a nice big belly. So then you take the tip, so you flush in some of the color here wet, take the tip and push out some paint. Boop, 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 just like that. Little fuzzies, right? And then we have a section over here. I've got a little purple paint on there, but that's okay. This is the other section that's going to be yellow. Again, pushing out the little fuzzies, fuzzy, 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 fuzzy. I'm going to grab some of that orangey yellow that I've mixed up. Now it's like less water. I'm going to have it, it could bleed from there. I might want to not have it bleed. I might want to have this actual color coming in there. But for now, I'm just going to push that in there. And then in here. Okay. You might want to put a little bit of yellow under the eye. So I'm going to grab some of the yellow again before I start to get real crazy with the black. Put a little yellow around the eye and down here. That's the eye, if you haven't noticed. Okay, so now we're going to be grabbing some grays, browns, you know, black and grays. I have my gray side on this side of the palette. And it's a combination of many things. Blues. Here's my cheat. I tell you guys all the time. And I'm sure the watercolor police would be mad at me. You can mix all the colors, like blue, green, and red to get black. And I can show you how to do that. Or you can just buy some black wash or black watercolor. But the black wash is intense. And I just water it down. Well, it's pretty intense. So if you want that intense black in the middle, you're going to need something like that, right? But you want it watered down for the initial wash in. And I have a lot of different colors in here. See, I like to mix in blue with my black. I'll grab some of this Prussian blue. I'll grab some vandyke brown. Or maybe a little red and a little bit of green. See, the green's dominant now. And you get the red in there. You get that brown, and you can mix some of that black with the brown. And go back in and throw in some more Prussian blue. I just like the blacks and browns and grays to have tonality to them, not just this weird, boring black. Okay, so then I'm going to mix the two like this. Water it down. I'm always dabbing it on a paper towel. You can't see it in this little frame. I don't want to get it on the paper, but I like to tap off the excess water. But if I don't, it starts to get really like a puddle on the paper. All right, so I'm going to go in here and start putting in the gray first. So it's a great, nice deep gray, and I'll put the fuzzies out. Who let the fuzzies out? And I'll put them over here. Yeah, my dog, he's fine. He's like, it's Friday. Why doesn't anybody want to play with me? And I can't tell him just yet. So I'm just flushing in this color here first. I lost the little legs. And the tail has a little white and a little black. So, got the tail on the bottom here. Just throwing in the little black butt. Gonna tap off the paper towel here. I'm gonna put in just a little bit of gray here to take off that excess paint. And then here. See? Just kind of making these little marks. Da 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 da. And that's kind of how you do it. Da 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 da. Fuzzies. And the little leg. There's a leg right here. See? There's this other leg hugging onto the flower. The antennae is really intense, like almost like black. I took the really concentrated black. For the eye, I would use like the black, go right around that weird oval kind of shape. It's gonna have a little halo right there. He's looking at you. He says, "What are you making?" And I'm going to put that black extension like that. This is where we go in and we start bleeding in the black. I'm just dabbing the really dark color here around where that gray was. Right? And then do it here too. Just tapping in like that. At this point you can start to fuzz out a little bit. This yellow is dry. Just little marks like this. Fuzzing out the black on the yellow. I'm going to tap that in the paper towel. Fuzzing it out, going out this way. Not too much fuzz, because even though he's a bee and he's kind of fuzzy, don't mind him make it look ridiculous. He has some pride. He doesn't want to look ridiculous. Okay. Same thing here. Gonna have some black coming in here. I kind of put too much yellow over here. It's supposed to come in here a little bit. So I'm just taking the tip. I'm just kind of pushing that paint around, just like we did with the yellow top. Boom, 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 boom. See, it dried really light. This is why I tell you my secret weapon is the gouache. Look at that. It's watered down, but it's black intensity right in there. Right? And then you can go back in and put those little sprays of fuzziness. That's my secret weapon. It's the intensity. I'm just going to dab that black in here, and then the eye, of course. It's the eye of the tiger. No, it's the eye of the bee. And I'm making little fuzzies. Just like that. The eye of the bee. Got a little bit over here too, by the wing. And go back in here. Then you're gonna make the leg. I'm gonna grab some vandyke brown. Put it over here so maybe you can see some of it brown. Incorporating. Put some brown by his little feetsies in here. I like to have the many colors, but you know, you get the idea of the fuzzy bee. So then we go back in here. We're just making little fuzzy lines on this section here. And on his little bee butt. Bee butt, I want to call it. And I'm going to go back in here. I filled in too much yellow, so I'm going to kind of recorrect it. Just go like that. You know, every bee is going to be different. My bee is not going to look like your bee. Your bee is not going to look like my bee. But you get the idea. So you put the fuzzies in. I'm going to go back in with that deep dark gouache. So that's kind of the bee, you know, and put little kind of teeny little lines on his little butt area. The fuzzies, right? For the wing, you want it in like the beigey brown tone. So I'm gonna grab my vandyke brown. Over on the other side of the palette. Sorry, guys. So I have it here. You can see this. It's mixed in with the grays. It's like this brown color. Grab a little bit of yellow. You want a tan, kind of beigey brown color. I'm just going to wash in some of this here. Right? A little up in here. We still want to kind of keep it on the lighter side because it's a wing and it's supposed to be white. I'm just going to wash in some of this beigey color. And in here, maybe add a little more yellow. Put the line here. We're just washing in the color. You can add a little gray to the bottom here. And we'll go back in and we'll put grab some yellow here. The little lines that make up the wing. I'm putting a little bit yellow down in here. Grab that brown and gray. All right, so I'm gonna leave some of that white. And when that dries, I'm gonna go back in and add the little lines. But look how cute, right? Bzzz. When that dries, we'll zoom back in. We're gonna go work on our thistle again. Don't make a missile or your thistle. So we're going to go back in and play around with adding the details, like the crisscross, applesauce, you know, and I'll change up lines around it. Like I'll put some blue, browns. Again, we're going to put some other colors in here. It looks too flat, like the thistle get, you know, it dried flat. I don't know why my lighting is a little off. I'm going to have to just up that up. Again, I'll put it over here, and I'll just add colors to go with it. So I'm going to take that back, go in with a deeper color, and fill that in. And some more purple blues than I had before. Hold on. Trying to get the right color. Just kind of washing in some other tones. Purple, blue. If it's too much, I'm just going to lift it up a little bit. But I want to start to give this a little more dimension. And I'm just going to tap in some of this purple in here. What I mean by tapping, I'm just going like this with the paintbrush. Sporadically. See? And I'll go and add some of that turquoisey blue color. Just keep playing around with that, and then go back in, grab this purpley blue color too, and go back down in the stem. And a little darker. You're playing around with like mixing a bunch of different colors. That's the beauty of this. One in the purple blue tone. See? I like the purplish blue. Going back on those leaves again. Just really dark and green. I'm going to go back in here. I'm just going to add this color in. It's going to get a little darker. It's looking a little too light. So I put the crisscross ends. I kind of wash some of it out. You can see some of it, don't see some of it. I want it really loose. I can go back in again with some brown and some green and a little blue, and then put it back in. You see? And while it's still damp, it kind of, like if it's thick paint, if there's hardly any water, it's going to either stay or wash out a little bit. And that's the goal. Just kind of throwing in some paint very sporadically. Again, you can make those same little spikes coming out. I'll grab that purpley blue color. Because the bee is making that shadow along with the little thistle marks up here. So I want a little darker. Like I said, I'm not going to show you the whole entire double bee to bee. I'll have fast forward and show you how I paint the other one. But we're going to go back in with the thistle again. Thistle! And add some more pretty blues. You know, it shouldn't all just be purple. Got some blue right in there. Again, sporadically throw them out. I like the multi-dimension of the colors. I want you guys to have fun and not get so crazy about it. I'll get that purple in here. That one pushed the green in there. That's fine. I want to play that game, Mr. Green. The purple. And put some ones going this way, that way, every way. I'd wait till the end to like splat. So what I'm going to do, I showed you how to paint the bee. I'll finish the wing. Is that I'll fast forward the bee that I paint, and then at the end I'll come back and we'll show you like some finer details of splattering and having fun with that. See, I'm going in and add some more of this pinkish purple. You're getting close to the bee, then you're going to go in here and just going to like go tight inside. Just going to go in here and be careful not paint over the bee. See, I'm just keep putting in more color. I want these multifaceted colors of the thistle. And having spraying upward, downward, outward, out, in or out, and all around. Like a merry-go-round. Just throwing in some magenta itself. I'll grab some of this blue purple. I just really like how much fun throwing in all the different colors. It creates really lively looking flower. And then the blue especially, peacock blue. Water that down a bit. And again, as this dries, you can actually throw in a little yellow if you want in the thistle. Dab in a little yellow on one side. See, I'm going to constantly go back in and put some purple tones. Little sprays on the thistle, coming out more of the green sprays, but they can have sprays just like the top coming out of the bottom. And depending on how dark you want it and how light you want it. Just like that. I'll get a little darker. I really like the purple. The bluish purple. There's a little green coming in here. Might just tap some of that. See, I'm just tapping in that color. Okay. You get the point, right? Put some of this darker green in here. So going back to the wing, I'm going to finish up that. Take the tip of your brush again, and we're just going to take like the dark deep gray. I wouldn't get too dark with this. I'm going to make the lines. See that? And the lines coming here from the wings. You get a little dark in some spots, but don't go too crazy. And that's the wings for the bee. Sting like a butterfly. Put a little more fuzzies coming in here. I thought the bee was pretty simple. Boop, boop. I'm getting a little crazy, but that's how you do the wing. You guys could totally do this. You see that? All right, so I'm going to finish painting that bee, and we'll come back at the end. Okay, so I finished my B to B. I mean, I had like a little tweaky, you know, a little black, and tweaked the little legs and the antenna a bit. But pretty much a little fuzzy guy is complete. I had a little darker orange in there, whatnot, and, you know, define the wings. So at this point, you can go in and grab some of this peacock blue, water it down with some purple, water it down, add a little, yeah, grab the peacock and the other color, making a nice turquoisey kind of green, blue color. Doesn't want to incorporate, does it? That's how life works. Okay. Anyway, water it down. Grab some brush and just kind of splatter a little bit, coming from the thistle. Not too much. See, I'm kind of just turning like that. You want to turn your paper. I had it coming out the other way too. Try not to hit the B too much. Actually, I'm going to turn it again. Like that. The bigger the brush, the bigger the splatter, vice versa. You know, if you want to splatter some purple, get the magenta, some blue, a little purple. There we go. That's pretty much it though. And like I said, once it dries, you go back in, you can add some deeper fuzzies going this way and that way. I want you to have fun with this, guys. Don't get all stressed out about it. Take your time just painting the bee. And the rest of it should be really easy, straightforward. You know, I'm just going to keep swirling around my thistle. Thistle, whistle, thistle. Gonna have some bigger ones coming out this way, even behind his little butt. How's that? Just be careful not to get the white part. And that's that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I know because somebody had asked, because the other one was a demo, and I figured, okay, I'll do it with I'll actually do a real talking one this time. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Everything's in the description box, and if you're a Patreon member, you get to download the traceable. I think I showed you how to draw that. You just slow down the video here to get it. So it's pretty easy. And you're really just painting with that thistle, just with the brush. And just take your time with the bee, and you'll have it. So take care, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll speak to you soon.